Okay, dear friends, a very good morning to you. God bless you and God be with you. We are in Acts chapter 16 to 24. Please read those few verses. Acts chapter 16, verses 16 to 24. So far we have seen that Paul and Silas are in Philippi now. That is in the nation of Macedonia. Today what we know as Greece. Philippi seems to be a town along the port, and it is also a very important town. Now, this is the continent of Europe anyway. Lydia was the first convert we have seen. The Lord opened her heart and home also, because we find the team is now staying in Lydia's house. On a Sabbath, they were going to the house or place of prayer when they were met by a slave girl that we read in today's passage. They were met by a slave girl. A few things about this slave girl, people of God. If you read in verse 16, you will find that she was possessed by a spirit. Verse 16 also says, by the power of the spirit, she could predict the future. And then verse 16 again says that she earned a lot of money to those who owned her. Remember, she is a slave girl. She is a slave. And she brought a lot of profit to those who owned her. When Paul cast out the spirit from this girl, we understand from the scriptures that she was no more able to tell the future, no more able to earn money, and she has lost all power. Verses 18 and 19. Anyway, verse 17 also tells us that she told the truth about the Paul and Silas, that this man represent and what they speak is the way of salvation by the most holy God, most high God. Verse 17. But I'm quite sure it was a disturbance, it was a mockery, and Paul realized the source of this girl's message, and that brought about Paul casting out the demon from this girl. Now, the reaction of the crowd. The owners got angry because they have lost their earning now. And they were Romans. So they called upon a crowd, verse 21 and verse 22. You will read the crowd was called upon. They were brought before the judges, and without a trial, without questioning, they were flogged, beaten up, and imprisoned. Verse 24. Notice two things, people of God. Fortune telling was done by this girl possessed by the evil spirit. And the minute Paul cast out the spirit, she was powerless. Number two, yes, the girl had power. She could tell the future. She could even tell whom Paul and Silas are representing. But the source of her power, the source of all that she spoke, was not from the Lord. It was from the evil spirit. What can we learn? What can we learn, people of God? Number one, fortune telling, magic, sorcery, and all these things, card reading, so many other things are not from the Lord. They are all worked out, initiated by spirits that are evil and that are out to deceive people. Therefore, the Bible warns us against this. And this incident clearly tells us this is from the devil and devil alone. And therefore, people of God, keep away from these kind of things. Let me present to you two verses for your reference. Leviticus chapter 19 verse 31, Deuteronomy 18, 10 to 14. Please read those verses where Moses, forming the nation of Israel, warns against divination and getting involved in all this kind of things. Number two, the owners of the slave girl, the main reason they came against Paul and Silas was because they have lost their earning, their income. Probably it was a very good income. And here comes Paul and destroys their source of income. And we find their accusation against Paul and Silas were different. They said, these guys are coming against our custom and our practices. And so we find a deception there. They were actually losing money, but they didn't want to say that. They accused Paul of twisting or going against their custom. People of God, generally, the world hates us. The world may not directly tell us that they hate us because we represent Jesus Christ. We are Christians. We are children of God. The world will never say that directly. They don't dare say that. But they will put all kinds of blame upon Christians, accusing them falsely. They did that in the early church, and they do it even today. But Jesus warned us about all these things. John chapter 15 verse 18, Amos chapter 5 verse 10, and Matthew chapter 5 verses 10 to 12. Read about it. In this world we are hated. We are not of this world. We are not part of this world. We are not associated with this world in any way. We have been called out and sent in as missionaries in this world. Now, Paul speaks of being flogged severely 3 times in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 23 to 25. And probably this is one of those times, or the first time, that he has been flogged. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a witness, a Christian pastor during the time of Hitler in Germany, World War II. He was a witness. He was one of those who knew that Hitler was going the wrong path and wanted to stop him. He wrote a very good book that I would recommend that you read it if you can get that book in your hands. The Cost of Discipleship, a classic in fact. And in it he writes, when Christ calls a man, he bids him to come and die. The Christian life is a costly life, people of God. The Lord wants us before he called us. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer says it like this: when Christ calls a man, he bids him to come and die. John chapter 15 verse 18. If the world hates you, Jesus said this, if the world hates you, know that it has hated me before it hated you. So the Lord is actually encouraging us and telling us that we are not the first victim of this world. It has actually hated Christ first. And then, because we are his children, because we represent him today, because we are the light and the salt, and because we speak the truth and we represent the truth, the deceived world will always hate us. Pray, keep to the Lord, be strong, be faithful. The Lord who is faithful will uphold you, sustain you, strengthen you, and may the Lord reward you accordingly. God bless you.